Third-party public liability insurance, we're on to the major thing.
The major thing.
Yeah. And I better do this, hadn't I?
Oh, I suppose, yeah. Oh, I'll add my comments.
Good idea. So we talked about what was that case before?
Dylan.
That's right. We're talking about Dylan. I think Matt might be talking about it. We talked about Dylan earlier. So let me tell you what happens when you hire a labour hire. You send in your offer from the labour hire, and what the labour hire will do is seek a series of indemnities. In 3 states of Australia, those indemnities, as they relate to safety, are illegal. Mm-hmm. So not only illegal. That's a good word. Yeah. I like it. They're also unlawful, and you can be fined. Okay, so be wary of those ones.
Yep.
But they do seek indemnity around workers' compensation. Mm-hmm. So let's just map this out. You've got labour hire providing labour to a host.
Yep.
Labour hire employee gets injured at host.
Mm-hmm. And you're the host.
You're the host.
Yep.
You're the host, okay?
Yep.
Except for our guys who work for a labour hire. You're the labour hire.
Yeah, the labour hire.
You get the workers' comp claim here in labour hire land, and you go, well, they're actually another site and they got hurt. Mm-hmm. It's likely the other site hurt them. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the basis of negligence. God, what's happened to my language today? For which your workers' comp insurer can seek recovery against the host. Mm-hmm. The host will then go up to their public liability insurer, and as we've said with Dylan, the public liability insurer may say no. And that all sounds pretty normal except for one thing, and that is the indemnity policy that you seek by changing your indemnity provisions in that contract. You've actually got to have insurance which permits you to seek that indemnity on both sides. And the host will not allow it.
Yeah.
There is a policy that does give that total indemnity. So where the host goes back and says to labour hire, you indemnify me fully. It's worth about $1 million premium for an average size business. Very, very hard to get, and the policy now, there's only one left that you can get that works in Australia, and it's almost impossible to get. But both sides have these exchanging indemnities, trying to get out of liability. Can I just tell you, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
We've now litigated several of these. They are unquestionably difficult to prove one way or the other. And the issue is, no matter what happens, you're enjoined in a litigation battle about the words of the policy and the liability process.
Oh, not a battle you want to get
So
into.
you're $400,000 or $500,000 in before you've cleared up what the words mean. The best way of doing this as a labour hire provider and as a host is to own your responsibilities. So if the labour hire person to come in and go, okay, we'll manage the introduction, safety, and the admission into site. We'll be clear about that, and we'll provide continuing support. The host says, look, we recognise that we have responsibility in Victoria. We've got Section 23 responsibility in any event. We recognise, and that's the same throughout Australia with a different number, we recognise we've got this liability, so we will accept that responsibility. And most importantly, we will not create areas of risk for labour hire. We will treat them like our employees.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't sound like much, but when you look in some of the industries like agriculture, the meat industry, those industries, whole sections of the provision of service is done by labour hire.
Yeah.
Almost no employee.
No, not at all, Andrew. Yeah.
And they are treated at arm's length, almost like contractors.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Matt, I think that's why Matt and I really wanted to chat about it.
Yeah.
One, this case means you must do what I just said. You must treat them like your own. You must have a strong safety system. You must manage them. If you don't, forget about this case, forget about insurance, you're going to be thrown into this well of litigation where you'll have no clarity and certainty. And good legal advice is about creating certainty.
Yeah. Okay. And I think, Andrew, as well, is that, this trend that we're seeing of this enforcement of this expectation that you've got to have that responsibility for people on your side, making sure that you take that individual responsibility and not trying to outsource it to someone else actually means you can also protect people as well.
And productivity.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
So the irony of all this is, if I have labour hire that come in, I build their skill. Perhaps in the labour hire agreement, I have a conversion clause, and good labour hire does, which means Matt comes in as labour hire. I agree to pay a premium 15% of his total year-on wage if I convert him to one of my employees. Actually, pretty good when you look at the provisions of the Fair Work Act. It's a good way of testing the cattle before they come to eat your grass. That's not a bad idea. So good clauses have that. So why wouldn't I bring in the best labour hire I can get, have conversion clauses, it is a way that I can tunnel this skill and talent into my organisation, treat them really well so I build their talent skill. They're not going anywhere else.
Yeah. That's right, Andrew. It's you can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
You can't get the positive benefits that you've just described there without taking some responsibility for the safety of those people. And as soon as you want one without the other, that's where you end up in a situation where those people are hurt and don't want to stay, and you end up in litigation.
And as Nina, if Nina was here, would tell you, the litigation that's coming from regulators about the protection of labour hire is prolific at the moment because the contracting method of engaging employees or labour has changed so dramatically over the last 10 years. It is now a focus of the regulators to protect labour hire. So it's now a high-risk area. Yeah, we're on time. It's
Excellent.
going well. Let's go over the problem.
And
this will blow us out because this is a lot of pages.
This is a lot of pages, and they're very tall, Sally tells me, so we might be hitting behind the wall.
Let's see what we're doing.
Oh, that was not too bad. Yeah,
let's see if I can come over it. Off you go there. I thought it'd be up like this, so you could just
I thought so too, but I think that's the next couple of slides, so we will get to do it. Dwayne was the operations manager of Magic Moulders, a plastic extrusion and moulding business for the food industry. Kate was a plant operator. She had raised issues with the owner about the way women were treated in the business. Nothing direct, but constant commentary mocking women and sexualising them, but never directed at her. When the owner undertook a climate survey, there was a very strong response from women in the business, raising the same issue and saying they didn't feel safe or comfortable with the culture. The owner spoke to Dwayne, explaining it needed to stop. Dwayne blamed Kate for stirring up trouble. He started to manage her more closely, was critical of any delays in production, even when outside her control, and made a pointed dig on Slack, the online method of production communication, saying, if anyone has any problems, you can always use Kate to raise them and discuss them across the plant. When Kate made a complaint to him, he laughed and said, after all, you are on the Continuous Improvement Committee.
Still not high.
No, it's not. Might have just readjusted the camera, actually.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No. The following week, a labour hire employee, Vince, was injured on Kate's plant as he tried to lift packets of extrusion parts to a pallet rather than use the appropriate lifting device.
I knew Matt was doing this. Sorry.
He suffered a herniated disc and because of the wear and tear in his spine, was unlikely to return to work. Dwayne called Kate into a room 2 days later, handed her an allegations letter suggesting she was in charge of plant and should have made Vince use the correct device. Hence, her actions caused an imminent risk to the health and safety of a labour hire employee. She explained she was on her break at the time, he was unsupervised, an issue she had raised several times, including her suggestion to automate the line to avoid manual handling. He found the allegations against her. There we go. Wow.
Well done, Matt.
Excellent.
Okay.
Extrusions.
Extrusion.
Good one, Andrew.
Yeah, no,
it was a good one. Yeah. And moulding.
I've got more.
No.
Okay, if he dismissed her, that's Dwayne. Would she have a good unfair dismissal claim, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the three elements here, harsh, unjust, or unreasonable, was it harsh? Absolutely. Someone who's made complaints, who wasn't in control of the plant at the time, had sought to make all these changes and then is terminated for that. Harsh. Was it unjust? Again, for the same basic
and the truth is, when you look at unjust, you go to the lawful basis determination.
Yeah.
There's no lawful basis.
No, what is the valid reason?
Yeah, so I think it's sort of valid or unjust. They're almost on par here.
Yeah.
But unreasonable. Wow, how unreasonable can you be?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. And look, oftentimes people hear safety and they assume, yes, absolutely valid reason, but you've got to think back to how is this person's role and part to play.
Which throws into the second question, is general protections. And boy, she raised the complaints, she's raised the issues.
Yeah.
She's raised the issues of the misconduct, she's raised issues of safety on the line, and he goes ahead and terminates.
Yeah,
on some of the very issues she's raised.
Yeah, and he found her annoying on his own subjective evidence, and effectively he's reading between the lines that he created the allegations to terminate her.
I think there's little doubt of that. Could Kate have brought a successful workers' compensation claim? Well, that's a lay down was there. That's a short answer.
Yeah.
So remember the two tests, reasonable management action here. So she'd say, it happened at work. Yes, it did.
Yep.
I've got a mental health problem.
Yep.
She'd definitely argue it, and as long as it's true, you can get it up and running. Next thing is only defence is reasonable management action. Was it fair for him to take the actions he did? No. Did he do it in a fair way? No.
Yeah. The double whammy.
Yeah. So off to premium we go.
Yeah.
Matt, could the labour hire company insurer bring a successful recovery action against Magic Muscle, and what would the public liability insurer do?
Well, I think, yes, the workers' comp could absolutely, insurer could
So
absolutely bring the recovery action.
Vince's employer.
Yep, that's right. Yep. So the person injured on the plant,
Yep.
could absolutely, given that they're a labour hire employee, their employer's workers' comp insurer could bring the claim.
What do you think the public liability insurer?
Well, I think they would reject it. I mean, did the host employer here, Magic Molding, did they take all reasonably practical options here?
Here they knew. So let's use reasonably practical.
Yep.
They knew what the hazard was because they'd been told what the hazard was.
They
knew the level of risk. Kate had elevated that and said you really need to use a control like Automate, or at least there should have been supervision.
Yep.
Wasn't there. So it wasn't safe planned. It wasn't done reasonably practical, and there was no safe system around managing her breaks.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, I think the public liability insurance.
And not an example where, as opposed to Dylan, where they get almost close and they'd say, oh, okay, there's something else you could have done, but this was almost perfect. Here, what they did was a failure.
And look, the interesting part of this is that, and I guess we should sort of focus on this for a second. So what happens when you go to court for this? It's not pleasant at all.
No.
What happens to go to court is you are the named party, so Magic Muscle is the named party. They come along and there are two people sitting opposite them. One is the workers' comp insurer for Vince, or Vince's company, and the second one is your own insurer.
Yeah, that's right.
So your liability for costs, because you're suing for indemnity at one level, and you're suing to say you're not negligent at the other level, or you're defending a claim, your costs are double.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the whole time you're trying to prove your case, the insurer is trying to prove you're wrong because they need to prove you're more negligent to deny liability.
Yeah.
So can you see how awful that is?
Oh, and no litigation is ever easy, but this particular litigation is
because you've got two parties trying to prove you negligent, and one of them is your friend.
That's right. Well, you thought.
All right. So the next question is, if respective work changes are in, would the commentary Kate complained about be unlawful? Now remember, none of this was directed at her.
No.
But it was about women.
That's right. Well, it's the hostile work environment, isn't it? So that you've got to remember that's comments of a sexual nature or about characteristics of sex made in the presence of people, not necessarily directly to, that could cause harm and offence. So here we've got several women, not even just one, but several women in the climate survey saying we feel uncomfortable because of these comments. I mean, you talk about a lay down misère, it'd be the test case of the century.
And not only that, Dwayne's been told to stop it and doesn't.
Yes.
So you've got this other problem. But the important part of that is a respect to work, which is probably going to go through before Christmas in the Senate. So Royal Assent early in the new year, not here yet. But it is also a hazard.
Yes.
So that hazard kicks back into safety laws. So once you've got an identified wrong, it's a recognised hazard, which elevates its level of risk, and the failure to introduce a control means you go back to the reasonably practical. You've got a real safety problem, which means the public liability insurer would be agitating that issue as well.
Yes, absolutely, which might flow well into the next question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
How on that?
Yeah. Almost like
and I wrote this. Did Magic Moulders and Dwayne breach the safety legislation? If so, how? Well, we've talked about how once they've done it, which is with the hostile work environment. What other ones, man?
Well, the others obviously are, we know here that there are examples given by Kate of the way to improve the way that the work is performed, about the automation. Obviously, there's also another level here about the psychological risk to herself and to the other employees.
And there's Dwayne.
And then, well, that's right. I mean, he was hurt.
He's one of the hazards.
Yeah.
He's one of the people doing this.
Yes, that's right. He's the labour hire employee. He's taken these steps.
That's Vince.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
yes,
look,
sorry.
I tell you,
Vince
it's complex. I warned you.
No, you did.
No, Dwayne
did,
was the one who was backing up the hostile working environment.
Yes, sorry.
So there you go.
Yeah.
All those things tell you really good, strong breaches of safety.
Yeah.
Which means public liability denies.
Yep.
Liability in the Fair Work.
Yep.
Gee, it's not nice, is it?
No,
Every
it's 3 or 4
single jurisdiction
proceedings.
you go to, you lose on this set of facts.
Yeah.
So, guys, next week I've got to tell you.
One more.
I've got one
question,
more.
Andrew. Yeah, one more question.
Could Kate have applied successfully to stop bullying order? Yes. Yeah, there was repeated conduct.
Yep, it was unreasonable.
Hurt, humiliated, intimidated, created a risk, health and safety, 3 tests. Yes, they could have.
Yep.
So, look, that's it. Now, can we go to next week? Now?
We can, Andrew. Sorry, I still want you
that
to
wasn't high enough.
You're well crafted question.
Look,
that's it.
next week we should know what's happening in the Senate, shouldn't we?
I think so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, it's only a week or two sitting left. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But the Pocock factor should be out.
Yeah, we might print him out and put him in front of the quail.
So I think
Who knows?
we put Pocock here.
We could.
Yeah, okay. Mr.
Yeah.
Pocock will visit.
There we go.
Yeah, he'll
Excellent.
be our silent inquirer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
See you next week. Bye bye.
Everyone.